Greetings. Welcome back to another video, the Sci-Fi Academic, another debunk video. So on the chopping block, we got Douglas Murray. I have no clue who Douglas Murray is. So he's on Sky News, and they're talking about the Queen and her legacy. I'm not gonna go too deep into the intro. I'm just gonna go on, play it, and then it is what it is.
Joining me now is Douglas Murray, Associate Editor of The Spectator and the best-selling author of The War on the West. Douglas, we've seen an outpouring of grief and gratitude after the Queen's death, but also it's revealed just how twisted and divorced from reality some leftist publications have become.
Oh, they don't like what they're saying about the Queen.
None more so than the New York Times. You've written about the paper's hostility against Britain.
We should not romanticize her era. The Queen helped obscure a bloody history of decolonization whose proportions and legacies have yet to be adequately acknowledged.
driving the type of coverage we've been seeing from the New York Times?
Well, I'm afraid that the New York Times, I've written about this quite a number of times in recent years.
Actually, I think there's a correction. The Queen helped obscure a bloody history of decolonization. I think she meant to say neocolonization. Decolonization is basically removing the effects of colonization. So I just wanted to add that.
You've written about the paper's hostility against Britain. What's driving the type of coverage we've been seeing from the New York Times?
Well, I'm afraid that the New York Times, I've written about this quite a number of times in recent years, since 2016 has just had an unbelievable animus against Great Britain. It seems not to have been able to forgive the populace for the democratic vote that meant that we voted for Brexit. And the paper, which used to be the paper of record in the United States and used to be a very highly regarded publication, made an incredibly frivolous set of assumptions. It assumed that Brexit was the same thing as Donald Trump. It assumed that Brexit was somehow against the international liberal ideas of the New York Times. And so for the last 6 years, it's run a campaign of defamation, slander, and libel against the United Kingdom. And a quite incredible campaign. I've documented it. It's just sometimes it's just ludicrous. Like its culinary section will claim that people in Britain are basically still living on gruel and mutton. Sometimes they get just basic facts wrong, or they just get a gob left winger to say, for instance, that Britain's a racist country. Usually, by the way, an ethnic minority British person who claims that Britain is racist yet weirdly is still in it. And then this week, I think the paper hit what is just a new low even for it. Within hours of the news of the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, the newspaper decided to immediately run an incredibly hostile piece by a left-wing non-entity academic talking about colonialism, empire, and the crimes of colonialism, and that Elizabeth II had much to answer for, and this sort of thing. They didn't even leave it 24 hours before.
So they should have left it, should have gave it some time, let people grieve. That's what they want. See the way he says colonialism, just with like a really smug attitude. But we're gonna get to the good part. We're gonna get to the good part.
Doing this, and we've seen in the days since other left-wing media join in. CNN, MSNBC, they've all decided to display not just animus against the Crown and against Great Britain and the Commonwealth. They've also decided to display their extraordinary ignorance of history. I mean, they seem to believe that, for instance, Elizabeth II oversaw the empire. They seem to believe the British royal family made its wealth from colonialism.
Well, like nobody thinks that she oversaw the empire. I mean, the timeline is pretty clear, so it's funny that like he's trying to make that an issue. Nobody's saying that.
They seem to believe the British royal family made its wealth from colonialism.
Where else did they make their wealth from? Britain pillaged the entire world. What is he talking about? He's saying he doesn't the way he looks and the way he's making his facial expressions is good acting, I would have to say, but where did Britain get its wealth? Where did it legitimately get its wealth from history if they were pillaging all over the world? Please tell me, sir.
They seem to think that the colonial era was so terrible that the Commonwealth countries must have been strong-armed into joining the Commonwealth. They've totally ignored the fact, of course, that every Commonwealth country's leadership, quite understandably, has been expressing their mourning and grief for the loss of Elizabeth II. And why would...
Yeah, because I mean, I could get into a completely different topic, but it's like this. It's like an abusive relationship, you know. Why do women go back to people who have abused them, right? It's a form of Stockholm syndrome. They can't really get away from the aggressor, or in this case, the oppressor. It's at this point, he doesn't understand it, of course, because he's probably British or maybe Australian, but Sky News is an Australian publication. But of course, he wouldn't understand that aspect of what colonialization did after decades of destroying a people. They could only be dependent on their oppressor, essentially. That's why they don't get away. That's why it seems like they are voluntarily part of it. And if they weren't part of it, they probably would have to suffer some type of consequences. And after going through so many consequences, they're subdued into not wanting to go through consequences again.
would that be if she was such a tyrannical ruler? Only because that's in the head of these very twisted...
I mean, nobody thinks she was a tyrannical ruler. She was like, nobody's saying that. He's just making arguments that nobody's really saying. I'm not saying she's a tyrannical ruler. It's what she represents that people will not let go. We don't care if it was a woman. They expect us to have some grace because she was an old lady, she was a woman. So that must mean that the history was okay. No, it's not okay, even if she was a woman. Even if she was a trans woman, it wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's she is the face of what she represents.
Spiteful, hateful people like the New York Times. It's quite amazing to watch and very disturbing, because it's a reminder, if I can say so, that, you know, institutions like the New York Times used to be great institutions, and they've been destroyed by hatred. And that's the exact opposite of what Queen Elizabeth showed in her own lifetime, which is that you build institutions with love and loyalty. And that...
Okay, so after destroying people, taking over, using firearms by force to subdue people, now people want to talk about love. You see, they don't want to deal with the violent aspect. They're like, oh, that was back then in history, but now she was all about love, so it was okay. This is what they have to, these are the talking points that they're using.
That's something that the CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, they wouldn't understand the language we were speaking in there.
Yeah, they're speaking the language of love. That's why I mentioned the example of the abuser, because an abuser can love you as well too after abuser beats the crap out of you, or a partner beats the crap out of a partner, and then love them after.
No, and it's not just the hate. As you said, it's the historical ignorance, which is astonishing, particularly when it comes from people you'd think would have a grasp of history. They're academics, they're members of the media, the working media. You mentioned some of the other outlets, CNN, The View on the ABC. Let's just have a look at some of these examples.
You know, this idea of how the royal family, how this family grapples with its history and legacy of colonialism, of slavery, of the potential paying of reparations is a really important one. And I think that King Charles understands that his job is, yes, as a monarch, but he's also an anchor for this Commonwealth.
She said, a thieving, raping, genocidal empire is finally dying. May her pain be excruciating.
It was a thieving, raping, genocidal
but I think
empire.
I'm lost for words. Step in.
First,
yeah, you're lost for words because you're shocked and appalled that people are not kissing up to the monarchy. I mean, just another example of white privilege. What can I say?
of all, if the British Empire had been genocidal, the people in question wouldn't be alive. They wouldn't be speaking.
Okay, so now he wants to get into semantics, okay? So she used the word genocidal, or the tweet that she referred to used the word genocidal, and now he says no, it wasn't genocidal. Um, they didn't kill everybody because technically genocide means to completely wipe out an entire race of people. It's like no, 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 no. We didn't wipe out an entire race of people, you see. So it wasn't genocidal. So factually, she's wrong. So the entire, I guess he wants to discredit the entire comment, maybe because of one word. But like I said, semantics. We'll continue.
If the British Empire had been a genocidal empire, it would have tried to kill all of the people under its rule. It
Okay,
did
we
no
get
such
it. We
thing.
get it.
There
We
wouldn't
get
be
it.
any people in the countries that were under British rule
Sure,
if the
sure.
British Empire had been genocidal. Genocidal is the intent to wipe out an entire people. The
Okay,
British Empire
got you,
never tried
got
to
you,
do that
got you.
anywhere. That's the first
We'll give him a point on that. It wasn't completely genocidal. Okay, we'll give you a point. Yeah, we know some Africans were working, along with Europeans. We got that. All right.
thing. The second thing is that absolute moron we just saw first from CNN talking about reparations. She has no idea in her own racist hatred that Britain paid reparations 250 years ago.
What? Britain paid reparations? That's the first that I'm hearing. Hopefully he backs this up with some factual information. That's new to me. Britain paid reparations? I never heard of this.
We paid reparations throughout the 19th century. We paid reparations for slavery by abolishing it under George III and then policing the high seas to ensure that slavery not only was outlawed across the British territories, but was outlawed across the high seas. We paid.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Flag on the play, flag on the play. We need to rewind. Hold on. Hold on. Flag on the play.
Flag is down. And Raymond has run out of bounds. Another flag comes in at the 32.
There are 6 flags on the field. I don't think I've ever seen that. You only have 7 officials, and there's 6 flags on the field. So
everybody had something.
One of the absolute moron we just saw first.
Okay,
from CNN
let's listen carefully.
She has no idea in her own racist hatred that Britain paid reparations 250 years ago.
He said Britain paid reparations 250 years ago. Let's go.
We paid reparations throughout the 19th century. We paid reparations for slavery by abolishing it under George III and then.
He said they paid reparations by abolishing reparations. Let's go.
Policing the high seas to ensure that slavery not only was outlawed across the British territories, but was outlawed across the high seas.
So he said they paid reparations by abolishing it. They paid reparations by preventing it. Let's go.
Paid higher goods in Britain throughout the 19th century, higher prices in goods, because we wouldn't deal in enslaving countries such as the United States of America.
So they paid higher goods. Britain paid higher goods for not dealing with the United States. That was the reparations. Let's go. Let me play one more time without me interrupting.
She has no idea in her own racist hatred that Britain paid reparations 250 years ago. We paid reparations throughout the 19th century. We paid reparations for slavery by abolishing it under George III and then policing the high seas to ensure that slavery not only was outlawed across the British territories, but was outlawed across the high seas. We paid higher goods in Britain throughout the 19th century, higher prices in goods, because we wouldn't deal in enslaving countries such as the United States of America. And so when people talk about reparations today, it demonstrates not just their own basically give me cash mentality, which is all that you see here, but
yeah, give me cash mentality. So I'll say it and I'll say it again. They will not say the same thing to Jewish people or Israel, because Israel still receives money from the US for whatever reason. They'll never say that about Jewish people and that they had give me cash mentality. But you see how he tried to redefine reparations. But I'll finish off and then I'll get back to that.
Also, the incredible ignorance. They don't know that Britain paid down any moral and financial debt it ever had 200 years ago under very distant predecessors.
Yeah, okay. So that's pretty much it. So let me just go to the dictionary definition of reparations. So A or repairing or keeping in repair, the act of making amends, offering expiation or giving satisfaction for a wrong or injury, something done or given as amends or satisfaction, the payment of damages, specifically compensation in money or materials payable by a defeated nation for damages to or expenditures sustained by another nation as a result of hostilities with the defeated nation. Payments. Here's another one. This is dictionary.com. First one was the Merriam-Webster. Dictionary.com. The making of amends for wrong or injury done. Something done or given to make amends. Something done or given to make amends. Their example is to deal with money. 2, usually reparations, compensation in money, material, labor payable by a defeated country to another country or to an individual for loss suffered during or a result of war. Monetary or other compensation payable by a country to an individual for a historical wrong. Reparation. This is the definition, and he tried to give you a yee definition of what it was. Here's another one. Cambridge Dictionary, UK, you know, because I don't know if he's from the UK or Australia, but the Australians are basically, their ancestors are from the UK. So let's get to a reparation, payment for harm or damage. It's simple. Reparation, payment for harm or damage. None of the extra stuff. So this has been thoroughly debunked. There's nothing else to say. You seen what he tried to do. He tried to rework the definition of reparations. He tried to give his own. Who knows where he pulled that out of? They're just looking at the aspect of them stopping enslavement, discounting everything that happened before. And now look, this is what we get. We have no fact checkers. This man really tried to say that they paid reparations by stopping from trying to prevent it. They paid reparations by stopping it. This is amazing, I have to say. But Douglas Murray, another debunked, got dunked on. I do not need some type of like visual to show that I'm just dunking on these guys and their points. Just completely dismantle it like a bad child. But anyways, that's another one for this video. Please stay tuned for more videos. Peace out. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. I'm out.